Hey guys, it's Henry at Mowers and Blowers again. This is part 3 of my opposed twin engine revitalization, if you will. So as you guys know, the valve has been unstuck and it's been lubed several times with PB Blaster over the past week or so because I haven't had time to work on it. I've been busy with some lawnmowers. And of course, snowblower season is upon us pretty soon, and so I'm just getting some of my snow commanders out. I might sell one today. This one doesn't seem to be getting any spark for some reason. It was fine just last season, but you never know. I'm going to tear that apart later. And so I've cleaned up the cylinder head here, the piston, the surrounding valve areas. It's still soaking with some PB Blaster inside just to, you know, lubricate it. Put the valve panel plate back on, and this is the left cylinder head, and I've cleaned that up, and the gaskets look good, so I'm gonna try to find the bolt somewhere that I threw in here somewhere, and I'm gonna put that on, and I'm gonna do the other side. Okay, so I have the left side cylinder head back on. I torqued the bolts down. I'm going to do the other side now. Of course, I am missing one or two, so I'll have to go and look in my box of screws and bolts. So one side is done. I flipped it back on its right side up, and this is the condition of my other side. So I'm going to use this wired bristle brush and just clean it off a little bit. Make sure it's squeaky clean. Use some carburetor cleaner to get off the excess gasket that was on there. Clean up the valves a little bit in between, because any bit of carbon or debris that gets left in there could break off and get stuck in between the valves and the seat. And then I'll be back to square one again with you know, a stuck valve. So I'm going to work on this a little bit, and the other head is on this side, and that needs big time cleaning as well. Pretty damn fine job, if I do say so myself. And there we go. I've got both cylinder heads on now. Valve is unstuck. So now I guess we need a carburetor. We need a carburetor and a couple of spark plugs, and mount the engine on there. Put the double pulley back on, and then eventually, you know, put all the tins back on there. Then we test it, I guess. So my boy Pete Lombardi gave me 2 Nikki carbs. These are both for opposed twins. They're identical. One's newer than the other. This one here I decided to use because it looked cleaner, and when I blew through the fuel pump, it had a more crisp type of exhale, if you will. You know, so I think the diaphragms and the gaskets inside feel better than this one. So I decided to use this one. This one did not have a throttle tightening screw, which I took off, and this one also didn't have a big screw there where you would use to drain the fuel in the bowl. And also, if you take a look inside, it's pretty rusty. So this one's definitely a less it's in worse condition than this one for sure. So this fuel pump feels good. Everything, I blew out the holes again just to make sure. I've connected the hoses. This one is the hose that goes into the crankcase, and it sucks air like a vacuum from here. This is the fuel line that leads all the way to the back, right, into the fuel tank. And I have to connect the throttle because this was cut from the machine. I have the throttle from this machine, so we should connect that. Oil it up a bit, and I'm going to find a couple of better spark plugs and put them in there, and then mount the engine. And we're pretty close to trying this out, man. Might happen today, I'm not sure. It's yucky out, and I have some errands to run, but coming along nicely. Thanks, Pete Lombardi, for the Nikki carb. We don't know if it works yet, but thank you anyway. So I've bolted down the engine. Got the engine bolts, 4 of them in the bottom. I also put on the double pulley and put the belts around the pulley. I've managed to mount the Nikki carburetor on there. Got the fuel line as well as the combustion chamber line that goes down. I haven't connected the stator yet. I have to kind of figure out the wiring first, but to start it off, I'm just going to connect the battery to the starter, and I've put 2 new spark plugs on there. Other side too. And right now I'm going to put a little bit of transmission fluid in here. Transmission fluid is more of a detergent, and I'm going to put about half a quart in there just to kind of flush out whatever crap was on the bottom, and then I'm going to drain it again, you know, on the other side. I'm going to move the thing around and sling it around there a little bit. Good old transmission fluid. That ought to be good. I'm going to use my hand and rotate the flywheel a bunch of times. Just to... Uh-oh. Crap. Shoot. Forgot to seal it. Duh. Well, at least we know there's not much other crap in there. Look. It's mostly all transmission fluid. That's cool. I was expecting to see, like, brown stuff and crap, but that's good news. It's a good sign that it's mostly all white, red stuff. Since a lot of it came out, I'm going to put the rest of this in there. It looked like it was mostly all red stuff, so I'm pretty happy about that. If there was like black or brown stuff and with like chunks of stuff like that, that wouldn't have been good, but this is just to flush out the bottom of the sump pan, just to make sure that I've gotten some stuff out there so that it's somewhat clean. Next thing I gotta do is let's see, sling that around a little bit, drain it again, put motor oil in it this time, connect the battery to the starter, connect the negative wire to the battery terminal, and let's see, what am I missing here, man? Got a carburetor. Oh, gas. Got to put some gas in there, right? Got a carburetor on there. Got the spark plugs. Heads are back on. It's mounted. Although the bolts are not torqued down, they're just mounted, you know. It's not super tight yet. But I wanted to see whether or not this engine turns over and starts, you know, before I torque them down. Don't worry, I'm not going to engage the PTO or anything like that, but I got to do the throttle cables too. So it's a lot of stuff, you know. I've done quite a bit today. I know it doesn't seem like it with this video, but trust me, it took hours and hours and hours upon doing it. You know, hopefully we'll be able to get this thing started and finally an engine for this baby. I've just connected the throttle cable and the choke. I think I did it correctly. So here's the choke. full open, pull up, full choke, full open, full choke. There's the throttle. Relatively smooth. Okay, attach the battery to the starter. Okay, throttle's done. That's attached to the starter. Spark plugs. Ignition coil, carburetor. Looks like we just need to connect the negative ground to the battery, put gas in it. That's about it, I think. You know, I'm not going to put on all the tins yet, or the air filter or anything like that until we know this starts, you know. And then we have to connect the stator and all that other jazz. Okay, I'm gonna see if it cranks real quick, just to you know, swirl that ATF fluid around. I'm not gonna do it for long. Nothing. Obviously something's not connected. So using the multimeter, I tested the battery. Battery's showing very strong, 12.75 volts. Tested the lead there, 12.75 volts. Tested the trigger. As soon as I turned the key snapped. So I'm going to take that ignition switch out. Very cool that they have this little trap door here, so that I could just pull up the ignition switch. I don't think I have one of these. I took the broken part out, and looks like I could just stick a screwdriver in there and just turn it. I'm going to test it again, but maybe this ignition switch is done. So the contacts were really bad, so I just wired bristle brush some of these contacts and let me give it a try. So it sorta kinda did something. It went bang, it moved us a second, but you know, that switch is busted anyway. You know, it's just not reliable and stuff, so I'm just gonna order a new switch. Or maybe I'll find one that I might have. I'm gonna have to put this off until I get a new switch. See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers. Stay tuned for part 4, guys, when I get my ignition switch and I do a startup.